3, 2.
I got everybody pregnant with Barry Katz and semen.
I'm not comfortable with the tone this is taking.
If you're undeniable, you will not be denied.
If you want to be successful in show business, you get yourself a true white manager like Barry Katz.
Being a manager is just turning no's into yeses.
Creating holy shit moments. Undeniable.
You're fucking firing me up, Katz.
I love this man.
Is there anything else I should know?
You're on. What? I'm on the air.
Barry Katz, back in the house.
Let's do this.
Ladies and gentlemen, very excited today. This is going to be fantastic. This is a guy who I've known for probably 3 decades, although I look like I've known him 3 decades, and he looks like I've known him for 3 days. But still, it doesn't matter. It's too long coming, him being here, and I have always felt the most wonderful, amazing thoughts about him as a man and as a person and as a professional in this entertainment industry. One of the nicest, most generous, first-class people I've ever met. So, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome, what an honor, Ian Edwards.
Hey, what's up? I thought you was going to introduce somebody else. Yes, I heard all those things. I was like, I'm the only person sitting here. Like, where's the other person at? But all right, I'll take it. Thank you. I appreciate you.
It's
good
you.
to see you.
It's good to see you, brother. I saw you the other day at the Comedy Store, and it was this weird unconditional thing where I just walked through the hallways. I saw you, and you found this lurking Jewish homeless-looking man hugging you and saying, "I love you." And it's like this weird thing. It's like, I didn't expect to hug you and tell you that I love, but I feel that way about you. There's something about you that's just always. There's never been any drama. There's never been any stress. There's never been a curse word. There's never been an incident. Every dealing I've ever had with you, there's not been one fucking thing that's ever happened that has caused me 1 millimeter of stress, aggravation, or negativity.
Well, let's see if you feel that way at the end of this podcast.
Am I the only one that gets that? Like, are you like, tell our audience the last time you came home from something or anything, you sat on the couch in the fetal position, you said, "Man, was I a real asshole today?"
I mean, yeah, nobody's perfect. But, especially now I'm older, I'm even, like, better at just, like, letting go, and it just took me a lot to get upset, you know what I mean? Like, but I don't know if not getting upset has even helped me in my career. Like, would you say, like, some of your most pain, I used to be your client, I used to manage me, you know what I'm saying? Would you say some of your most pain in the ass, more, not even pain in the ass, what's the word, like high maintenance clients probably got further? Did it hurt them or did it help them?
I'll tell you, we've had these conversations before about your career, and I don't know if you remember any of them, but I always felt that permission to speak freely.
Yeah, 100%. We're not going to speak freely now. When are we going to do it? I'm not going to come back and do this podcast again.
Not another 30 years, you won't come back. Anyway, so I always told you that I felt that there's 3 ways to be in this crazy up business. You could say it metaphorically. You could say there's people who tread water. There's people who drown. And then there's people who are really great swimmers.
Right.
And then you could say it in a different way that's real, where you say there are people that are more comfortable following. There are more people who feel comfortable leading. and there are more people who just can't figure out the navigation and they disappear in the business.
Right.
Now, that doesn't mean there aren't people who know how to follow well and know how to lead well. They do exist because as you're coming up in the writing world, you have to pay your dues a lot of times. Not always. Some people break through before they have to do it, just like, I just had an intern who just went to UTA and they didn't go through the mailroom for a year. They just went right on somebody's desk. It happens. But I always feel like, there's that balance. And I always felt like you weren't as comfortable being a leader of men and women. You were more comfortable being a part of a team of men and women going to some common goal of getting things done together with somebody overseeing it. And I always told you, if you probably don't remember, I didn't tell you every day. I might have told you once in my life or 3 times in my life, but I always told you that I felt that you were going to get to the highest level once you decided to, I am a leader of men and women, and I am no longer going to do things this way. I'm going to work at creating my own things until I'll follow. I'll be a part of a team, but every year I'm going to create my own thing and go out. I don't care if I fail 10 times in a row. I'm going to show people that I can do this so that when the open job comes, that I'm going to get the call to lead. Now, the question might be, you might not want the aggravation because you are in these rooms. You can, we all can see, let's take somebody for an example who's been in the writers.
Well, let me just say, your answer is taking so long. I forgot the question that I asked.
I'm sorry. I'll shut up. This will be edited. I'll edit
it. No. Leave it in there so that people can see that response. But I feel like this is funny. So just to, and then you could finish it. I'm just going to interject on the swimming, treading, excellent swimmer thing. Like when I first met you, I'd probably been in the country 5 years. You know what I'm saying? And then the way I was raised is like, just do the work. Almost like they say in America, you just pull yourself up by the bootstraps. People will notice you and give you what you're worth. You know what I mean? Like, you're not supposed to it's completely different now. You're not supposed to say, look at me, look at me, look at me. Which was probably something I'm not comfortable doing. Like I would do it on stage, through my routine, but to go into meetings with execs and stuff like that, I you got me to my first Montreal, right? And did great,
really exciting time,
fun time, and then
no, but I want to say just, I know what you're saying. I know my place.
No.
But your performance on that audition, and how we prepared for it and how you executed it after 5 years of being in the country was unbelievable. It was so exciting to see and for you to get that chance based on that performance, because that night of those showcases, you saw people that were here longer than you, probably deserved Montreal more than you, and when the light shined the brightest, they didn't execute the plan properly, and they failed.
And I get my math wrong. I'd been in the country longer than that. Now that I think about it, not 5 years, because then I wouldn't. But I'm in my head. I'm still. It's just I guess I'm trying to emphasize the way I was raised, and you can't use the way you were raised in show business. You have to be more like what you were saying. You know what I mean? But it was tough when you're raised a certain way to separate, like once you see your parents do something a certain way, and you're like them, whether you know it or not, which I love the way that they are, and I love the way that they made me. It's just you work and people will notice you. So it was like when I did Montreal, and then you got me those meetings afterwards. I would sit in those meetings, and those people ask me questions, and I have 1-word answers. But in my head, I'm thinking, they saw me perform. I don't have to say anything else.
Yeah, and that was
and that's a mistake on just my understanding of like show business. It had nothing to do with like, it had nothing to do with like, I thought the time to swim was to be an excellent swimmer was on stage, but you're actually supposed to be an excellent swimmer off stage also, and that's where that's what I didn't understand.
Personally and professionally.
Yeah, personally and professionally.
Because the thing is about our crazy business is that you can be the perfect person out in the world, and you can make one mistake and it's over.
Right.
But it's the same thing outside of our business. If you're a kid, or if you're Kate Quigley in those 3 comics, you can make that mistake.
Jesus, Barry, what an example.
No, but I mean, you make one mistake and it's all over. It's like you can, or you walk on the highway one day, you say, "Hey, I'm going to take the chance."
Another dead comic example.
I'm sorry.
God damn.
I'm sorry. But I just think about that a lot, of like the things that can happen. Obviously, when we're walking down the street and the jet engine falls from, the sky. Jesus Christ, Barry, the comedian with the jet engine that fell on him.
God damn. These death examples.
So let's keep going with this, because please don't get mad at me and jump over the thing.
Why did I get upset?
So like, I'm just going to use a name here. And I think sometimes when you see people who go from the process of writing on a show to running a show, I think sometimes you and we look at those people, and sometimes we're like, wow, that's really great. I'm really fucking proud of that person. Other times when you talk to them and you see the stress on their faces, you're like, yeah, I'm proud of them, but I don't know if I want that kind of responsibility. You take somebody like somebody we know, like let's say Owen Smith, who Owen has written on shows just like you, and then recently in the past few years has made the jump to show running. And I see the look on his face, it's like a different look. So even though he's making more money, he's got more responsibility, he's renting the chair. And it's like, at any time, you could be taken out if things don't work the right way, even if you're aligned with the star. Because look at how many times there's been a new coach of the Lakers, and the coach thinks, hey, LeBron and I, we're really tight. No, you're not. You look at and I'll keep going with that example.
At least there's no death in this example, so it's fine.
That's right, no death. You look at J.J. Redick. He has a podcast with LeBron. He's like, he's going to be the coach. He's going to be the coach. He's like, I'm tight with LeBron. I'm going to. Then 3 days later, Hurley from Connecticut is
the coach.
So, and then you got to go to that podcast with LeBron. Hey, how you doing, buddy? So the point is, there's a lot of shit that happens, and there's a lot of protection, and maybe, and you can tell the audience, maybe you live your life successfully like this because you don't want to deal with the shit that these people deal with, because you see the look on their faces and you see the stress that they have to deal with, and maybe it's not worth the extra double the salary or triple the salary or quadruple the salary to have that kind of stress.
Well, I don't want to say never. I feel like the conditions have to be right, and I feel like the way show business works now, there's a better chance of it being like more right in my favor, the way I want it. Like I definitely don't ever really want to have a miserable job just to have some money. You know what I mean? So I kind of, there's some things that I want to do where I will be in that position, but it has to be those things, or somebody has to come with something and deliver it in a way that they promised that we would both enjoy doing it that way and creating that way.
Am I allowed
You know
to
what I mean?
disagree with you?
I mean, yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So this is how I've always felt about you. And I never share these things because I don't want to, like, it's not my place. And here isn't my place either, probably.
No, just go ahead. It's fine.
So this is the thing.
Mm-hmm.
You are capable, obviously, you're capable of everything. You never stop working.
Right.
There's never a time when you stop working.
Mm-hmm.
You get, a show gets kicked to the curb, you're right in there again.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if our audience understands, but I'm going to just tell the audience this, and I'm not going to divulge financially what somebody like Ian makes. But if you are the shittiest writer in America in the WGA union, and you are the lowest of the lowest of the low, you are a guy who just came out of the fucking scrap heap, and you just got your first job on a scripted show, you're making over $4,000 a week.
Yeah, but for how long of a period?
I know. I'm just saying. So the point is that it's not, the union is really great and the writers did a great job and whatever. But let me keep going.
Mm-hmm.
So I always felt that in the past decade, you were the perfect candidate, and you still are. Every day, you're the still perfect candidate to do it, is to say, you know what, I'm going to pretend that you're going to take me to task at this as well, but I'm going to pretend that my family is being held hostage, and I'm never going to see them again until I write and I direct and I shoot and I cast this original project that I do. I don't care if I have fucking Dan Ramos with a Steadicam iPhone shooting it, who, by the way,
Who the hell's Dan Ramos?
Oh, he's a young comedian who is great at it. Or I have a professional crew. I'm going to do this, and I'm going to show it to everybody to show them that I am. I can write a show, original show for myself. I can star in the show or be one of the actors in the show, in the ensemble that I create. I can direct the show. I can produce the show. And I can, even find the music for the show.
I would do that without those circumstances and conditions.
Okay, but the point is what I'm saying is you haven't. So you have to ask the question. Now you might say, yes, I have, Barry. F*** you. I've done it 17 times, and I can show you each one of them.
I sold a few shows. And
no, but I'm talking about the ones where the world saw that written, directed, produced, starring Ian Edwards.
I sold like at least 3 shows, right? That I created. You know what I'm saying? Like pitched. One was an animated show. Maybe 2 of them was an animated show, and they actually, like, me and a guy got together, and I wrote the script. He animated it, and then we did the edits back and forth, and then so we had a not just a pitch deck, but a 5-minute thing.
Yeah.
And we sold it to Comedy Central, and then
this is good.
They paid me to.
This is
to
good.
write
This
the
is
script,
good.
But it just didn't go.
That's okay.
further
This is
than
good.
that. And that happened a few times.
This is fantastic. What you just said.
Yeah.
So this is one where you wrote it.
Mm-hmm.
You had it animated.
Yeah.
You probably did one of the voices or 2.
Yeah, I was the main voice. I was the main
All right.
character. Yeah.
And so this is even better that you said that. I mean, people would say that's worse, Barry, for you. But no, let's just this re-emphasizes the example. Is when you have done that, people have enormous. Not that everybody respects you. There isn't anybody who doesn't respect and love you. What I'm saying is, if you do that over and over again, people are going to hear in the world that you are a writer, producer, director, creator, and star. And so there's no reason not to keep doing that while you're pushing the rock up the hill on other shows, working as a team, because I think you're like the next person in my mind who is going to be running shows from the comedy community. I believe that you have that skill set, and this is why. And I will say this, and I mentioned Owen.
Sorry that I'm drinking my tea like that. I got to move it around.
No,
the
it's
mic.
okay.
Go ahead.
And I will mention like Owen again, because another guy who no drama, no stress, no anything. And I think when people want somebody running a show, they want somebody who there's enough stress as it is.
Right.
You don't want the lead guy being like crazy. You want the lead guy to be able to take the hits and be calm. Like you said earlier in this interview, is like, I've learned how to, like, you know, people say things, they do things. I've learned how to figure out how to do it. And so all I'm saying is I don't think it's wrong of me to say that I've always believed in your talent. I've always believed in you as a writer, I've always thought that you were a guy who could do thing, and I've always felt you were a guy who could really lead people in that way you do, like that quiet, you know, calm thing. And I just thought to myself, like, every year this guy should be showing the world I'm doing something. Look, Judd Apatow, I think he said he failed 8 times in a row. You know, it's like you don't have to succeed every time. You just have to show the world that, hey, this is who I am. This is what I'm capable of. This is what I do. You don't have to succeed every time.
But also, so this is the question I wanted to ask you. How different, like, was comedy as far as Black opportunities, like, when we started, right, compared to now?
I love that you're asking that question.
Like layout for people.
I will lay it out. And I think that it's, you know, the thing about, and again, tell me if I have selective memory.
All right, go ahead.
So when I was starting managing it at the Boston Comic Club, even like sort of like before I even really understood management or was doing as much as I should have, I would do these showcases at the Boston Comedy Club. I would do these, I always did things outside the box. So I would call an executive in LA, let's say the guy who booked Evening at the Improv. And I would say, listen, I'll fly you to New York. I'll put you up in a nice hotel. I'll give you a per diem. You have the time of your life. I only ask you to come Friday night and see 2 shows and Saturday see 3 shows. Do whatever you want during Sunday and during the day on Friday, whatever.
Did Bud know that this guy was living life like that?
Probably not. And so he'd come in, he'd see 50 people, and he booked 17 of them. You know, I would do stuff like that. MTV, Letterman. It didn't matter who it was. The Tonight Show, I would call them and offer to fly them in. It was almost like a transactional thing, you know, where I would like give them something and expect something in return.
Right. Which is a good way to do business.
So one of the first things I did was a showcase for MTV hosting. And I put the list together, and Bill Bellamy was on the list. And they called me and they said, you're gonna have to take him off the list. We're not using Black hosts. This isn't like a Black network, you know. And I said, I'm not taking him off the list.
Right.
Barry, we'd like to fill another spot. Then I said, add another person, but I'm not taking him off the list. Now, it turned out that they booked him and Jay Mohr. Jay Mohr did lip service, and Bill Bellamy did the hosting.
I forgot what show it was. Yeah.
And people think like, oh my God, this is incredible. What a great opportunity. He made $500 a week, you know, doing it. but it was a great opportunity
Yeah,
because it launched his career. So there weren't a lot of opportunities for black art. I remember when I was representing Wanda, I would do all these showcases with Wanda, and she was fucking killing every fucking showcase, killing. And nobody was giving her the shot that I mean, granted, yes, she did Conan and she did a few evening at the Improv, but whatever. And I remember she used to come in my office, and I you know, it's like there's things that sometimes I feel so bad about it, and it's partially me, and it's probably partially the business. But she would take my business card and she would put it on the edge of the desk, and she'd say, "I feel like I'm just teetering on the edge here with how, you know, we're doing things and how you can represent me and do." But also at the time I was representing Chappelle, and enormous opportunities were happening for him. So I want to say to you and to the audience, if you're highly, highly extraordinary, an artist, like you're like beyond extraordinary. I don't care if you're green, you're black, you're Asian, you're fat, you're thin, you're whatever. Back then, you were going to get, even though the opportunities weren't there for black artists, Chappelle did 7 pilots in 8 years.
Right.
You know, but that's one instance, you know, of things. Now, you know, it's like, it's crazy.
Can I just respond? Like,
Yes.
Chappelle, definitely extraordinary. It's undeniable. You can't doubt that. But I feel like there were so many also other extraordinary comics. Like J.B. Smoove made it like 10 years ago, but he was always extraordinary. You know
I
what
loved him, but this is where he wasn't extraordinary, and I hope that if he's listening, he doesn't get mad at me. So JB was an older comic at the time than Chappelle.
Man, he was older than Chappelle, but Chappelle was young. Chappelle was what?
18.
18.
But I'm just saying. So JB was also a guy who, the way he spoke, he had, I don't know.
So I've heard this before, like people could not understand him.
Yeah, so that was a thing that probably went against him, because he was a character of the game, and people were looking for leads in shows, and they didn't probably think that was the case.
Well, 2 things just to respond to that. I could understand him. He would always kill. So I didn't. So I've heard the thing where people said they couldn't understand him, but I was like, how is somebody who's killing, and his mind was just. JB's mind has just always been beyond and above, you know,
Incredible.
like his ideas and stuff like that. But so people would say that, and I was like, But also, you know, there's white versions of JB
Yes.
that made it at the
Yes.
same time, around the same time. And then when you say Chappelle is extraordinary, like there were comics that were white that weren't extraordinary. They were just funny, you know, just regular funny.
Look, if I use Jay Mohr as an example,
they made it,
and Jay Mohr might get mad at me for this.
I think Jay was pretty funny.
But Jay Mohr's stand-up comedy wasn't on par at the time with J.B. Smoove and Chappelle. He was killing as hard as they were, but it was with not the kind of material that they were doing. But Jay was an extraordinary actor and could walk into any room. And the thing is, comedians, we don't, you know, and also other people, you don't know what's happening in those rooms. So you just hear that Jay booked the show, and you're like, well, how the f*** did
he probably showed his personality. He probably did. He swam on stage, strong swimmer, and off stage. But I've admitted to you that I didn't compute that once you did it on stage, you had to do it again in the room. I just thought they saw you on stage, so just give you the job, and then you'll just do the job like you did it on stage. Like, but you know, that's just something. Plus, you know, just being from another country, it just takes you time to figure out. Like, I was on a crash course in a crash course. I'm on a crash course of learning a country in a crash course of learning show business. You know what I'm saying? Show business was just something that I watched on TV growing up. And then did I know stand-up would lead to all this? Maybe. But I used to watch Chappelle on TV, right? And then I'd go to the Boston Comedy Club. I'd do that audition that night you saw me. And then you call me to your office. So you want to manage me. You want to have a meeting about managing me. I think the only thing I said in that meeting is, yeah, I want you to manage me. But I didn't tell you what I wanted because I figured, like, if you're managing Chappelle, whatever you're doing for Chappelle, just do it for me. I don't have to say anything to you. But that's just me assuming that, like, we all know what we're here for. Let's do that. But I didn't articulate that. And I know that I didn't articulate that. I just assumed that you would know. But years later, I'm like, how the would he know if I don't say that shit?
Yeah, it's like, look, management, there's no management college. And I've been so humbled to get to work with so many amazing people. And to be able to work with them and to be able to do things where actually you can look back and say, wow, their talent and my talent actually came together and things happened that were amazing that didn't result in death. But let me keep going here. Mm-hmm. So I consider your comedy to be at the highest level. So, and you could, if we take all the comedians that I've seen in the world or in the country, I would say that your stand-up comedy premises and punchlines are in the top. If I'm being conservative, they're in the top 10%. Okay, and if I'm really being shitty towards you, I'd say they're in the top 15%.
Right.
Okay. And somebody who is really being generous would say you're in the top 5%. Would you agree or disagree with that range?
Hey everybody, it's Barry Katz, and I wanted to talk to you about Blueprint for Success. This is a community that I put together during the pandemic to help all artists of every walk of life in the entertainment business. No matter where you are in that part of this journey, it's designed to help you. There are podcasts with people that will inspire you, like Kevin Hart, Judd Apatow, Bill Burr, that you can't find anywhere else but on this program that I've interviewed, to times where we get to talk to executives in the business that you would never have access to tell you what you need to hear and to answer your questions, to all sorts of different videos and master classes designed to help you get to the promised land. That's what the Blueprint for Success is. Doesn't matter whether you want to be a stand-up comedian, a sketch performer, a podcaster, an actor, an actress, director, writer, social media person, whatever you want to be. I've been doing this for 40 years. I've had the honor and been humbled to represent people like Chappelle, Wanda Sykes, Louis C.K., Dane Cook, and probably over 20 other people who went from a studio apartment to being a multi-millionaire and a household name. And I want that for you, and I wanted to take the time with this program to be able to help you on your way there, to get there and to heighten and increase the trajectory of your career. Blueprint for Success is the way to go. I'm proud to be a part of this program, and I'd be proud to have you to be a part of it too.
I'm not against it.
Okay.
I don't think those are bad averages.
Okay. All right.
Or percentages.
So let me keep going with this theme, okay? Now, so you're in the top, let's just say average all those out, the top 10% of original premises and original punchlines to come to those premises. And there are people out there who aren't well known yet, you know, who do this. Like I was in New York, I saw this comedian from Toronto, Pat Burr. Fucking unbelievable the way his mind worked. And it's not that and I want to say this, that a lot of people think comedians, oh, this person's brilliant. It's just, Ian isn't trying any harder than the guy who writes the McDonald's bits.
Oh, yeah, I am.
In my opinion, I disagree with him. I think it just comes out of his mind onto the pen, and that's the way it is. And then that's what makes it so. Let me keep going with this. So, you're in the top 10% of premises, original, and punchlines that are original. In terms of African American writers in comedy on television shows, you're in the top 10% of those people doing that. You know, in other words, I'm talking about all the writers in the world, black, white, Asian, whatever. You're in the top, you know, you're in the top tier when you're a go-to guy when it comes to when somebody wants that voice, if they think that's a special voice, or if they just look at everybody as clear, then, you know, even then you work all the time. All right?
All right.
So you got the comedy, you got the writing. Okay? So when you're in those two tiers, you're in rarefied air. So you have the ability to do things beyond what mortal men have the ability to do. And that's why I'm such a pusher and such a, you know, you know, every year it should be a different Ian Edwards project because you're in rarefied air, you know, and everybody knows it. There isn't one person that doesn't believe in you. There isn't one, if you did anything, you could write any pilot tomorrow. There isn't any comedian that I know that wouldn't step forward and say, I'll do a cameo in that for you. I'll do a role in that for you. Your relationships run so deep. There isn't anyone, I mean, I'm uniquely qualified to talk about this. There isn't one fucking comedian that hates you. There isn't one comedian I know of that violently is opposed to you as a person.
Hilarious.
Now, you may think there's people who have animosity towards you where you got a job over them and they're like, motherfucker, I was more talented than him. I should have gotten that job. But the point is what I'm saying. So I just wanted to go forward in this because I believe in you and I think this is
like Barry's own personal intervention against me, y'all.
I think that's in the cards for you, and I hope that you.
That's what this whole podcast feels like.
You're the one who
I need to push him.
Anyway, but the next question I wanted to ask you, which is a tough question. When you are a comedian that's doing something interesting and great, like you do, like, you know, like when you get the Comedy Store and you watch Kirk Fox, let's say, you're just watching him, you're like, this guy's like the anti-comedian. It's like, what the fuck is happening here? It's like, is he, and you know, it could be looked at like, is this guy trying? Is this guy whatever? But then you see him beforehand. He's got his little card with all his stuff on it, and he's been going over it and whatever. And it's just, you're watching, and you're like, there's something really. I'm never gonna watch Kirk Fox and say, God, this is ordinary, you know. And we get a chance to see people like that in these clubs a lot, see people who have that unique, interesting voice. But sometimes when you get a writing job, you get a writing job working for people who don't have that kind of voice. Their comedy isn't aligned necessarily with the kind of comedy that your peers would say is like, holy shit, Have you seen that person's bit on this? They don't have those kind of bits.
Right.
You might be working with somebody 10 years ago or 5 years ago or whenever it is who is just an entertainer, but they're killing, or somebody who's very popular, and they're doing really well, but there's no bits that you're going to remember, like the crack baby routine from Chappelle, or the 7 words, you can't say on television from Carlin, or the gun control bit of Jim Jeffries. But you get the gig and it pays a lot of money, and it's like, do I take the gig and work with the person whose comedy isn't really like aligned with my senses? Or like, how do you handle that? Like when, jobs are few and far in between, and do you feel like sometimes you're doing things that are against what you think are in the best interest of your sensibilities just to keep working? Like, how do you find that balance, and how do you handle it?
Well, there's jobs that I turn down, but you don't hear about the jobs that I turn down. Sometimes it's not a good show. Sometimes it is a good show, but they lowball you so much. Like, I'm not gonna argue with these people. You know what I mean? Like, to get back up to what I should get. Like, they know how long I've been doing it. Like, why are we even starting here, Then there's shows where, they respect you. It's the right people making it. It's the right network. It's the right production company. So then it's the right, like when I think about Chocolate News, they're Chocolate News, and David Allen Greer is like, so I say this for everybody, but he's what was my term? It's like, that's a great horse to lead a race. Like, so mad talented. He's gonna deliver everything you write. So like, the writing is gonna be enhanced by his performance. This is gonna be dope. So and it's just a fun ass show. So then there's a lot of jobs like that. But what's the question you really asked?
Well, David Allen Greer is somebody who you believe in his sensibilities, and you believe that he's a guy who's brilliant. But what happens when there's not a lot of work at a certain time and you get offered a job?
Then I just don't take those jobs.
So you even if like there isn't another job on the horizon.
There was one. I've turned down good jobs. Like, I just left Blackish, right? And Dion Cole was just about to leave Conan, right? And he was a writer on Conan, and he was in front of the camera. But I just left a scripted show, and I wanted to like do a special. And I was like, I got to do a special. I have to work on my stand-up. And then Mike Sweeney and them hit me up, and I'd done Conan like 3 times. And they was like, hey, do you want the writing job? Plus, we'll get you on camera. But I've written on talk shows before, like some with you and other people, and it just takes up so much of your time. So that I was like, not thinking that like Conan and them have it like down to a science where you're not in like from morning till night, so you have to do. So I was like, so I didn't take that job, But I was like a favorite on the show as a performer, so I didn't take that job.
And that's for the audience to know. Those are one of the toughest gigs to turn down.
Yeah.
Because
and it was tough.
They go on forever. They work 44 weeks a year. The benefits on the off weeks are insane. If you really desire, you don't even start with a 13-week contract. They just give you the whole year. And the money is insane. But like you said, if there's a certain host that demands you working long hours or whatever, you have no life. But the security is insane.
Right.
And to turn something like that down and knowing that Dion Cole was in that same spot and look what happened to him.
Exactly.
That's a tough one to turn down.
Yeah, and I turned it down. It might have been a mistake. I'll admit that. It might have been a mistake because I feel like they were, if I had had more of a conversation and like, how much can I get out, and do stuff. But I feel like maybe, because Dion was also like performing on the show, like doing sketches, so it helped his profile, which helped his stand-up, which I think that's what they were saying. But I just was haunted by writing on other talk shows where you just have no time.
Now, also, I think sometimes this should be noted. Mm-hmm. Ian most likely has a manager and an agent, or at least an agent. And sometimes agencies they have their fingerprints on things and they don't, you might not be comfortable with conversations or whatever. Maybe Mike Sweeney and that whole team didn't get that proper audience with him to show him everything that he could have. And maybe, based on what Ian said earlier in this interview, maybe he didn't ask the right questions.
It's probably more on me, but it's not that anything went bad after. After I did do the special with Comedy Central. I did sell a show to Comedy Central. It's just that sometimes there's no bad answer. You know what I mean? Or maybe one answer is just a little bit better than the other one, but you don't know until you try it. It's not always like this is bad, this is a bad choice, and this is a good, and this is a good choice. It's like, what can you make out of the choices that you choose? You know what I'm saying?
My mother used to say, whatever decision you make it the right decision.
Yeah, there you go.
1,
2,
3,
4,
5,
5,
6.
6 degrees of separation.
All right, 6 degrees of separation. I'm going to mention some names or some things.
All right.
Just tell me anything that comes to mind. It could be just a sentence. It could be a word. It could be a little story. Who knows what it is? Larry Wilmore.
Funny, smart, intelligent guy. Worked with him on Blackish, and when they brought me in to see the Blackish pilot, and I was also a writer on Two Broke Girls at the time. I was punching up on Two Broke Girls, so I saw the pilot for Blackish. Two Broke Girls was on the air, and they were like, "Hey, you did a great job as a punch-up writer. We want to put you on staff." And then Blackish, they show me the pilot, and they say, "We want you on staff." Now, there you're at a fork in the road where Two Broke Girls is guaranteed to be on the air for that season, the season after. It's a hit show. And I just worked on it. Know all the people there. This is a pilot. It may last 9 episodes or 13 episodes, or it might do one season and then be out. Which one do you choose? I saw that pilot and I was like, this show is going to last. So I just went to the instinct and I chose Blackish, and it worked. You know what I'm saying? Until I quit.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Tony Hinchcliffe.
Tony Hinchcliffe. I mean, a lot of people might not like Tony, but I think he's created a show that has helped more comics than comics who are good people have helped. So I like the fact that, and the irony of like a polarizing comic is doing good. And when I talk to Tony, me and him are cool. I understand that maybe some other people are not cool with him, but me and Tony have always been cool, and I'm glad that he has a show that is literally helping some really good comics who want to work hard and bust their ass. And Tony Hinchcliffe is like an example of life and comedy.
It's incredible. It's like when certain shows can be like the Saturday Night Live of And, to think that, I don't know how many years ago, if he would know more than me, if it was 7 years ago or 10 years ago, he's working at the Comedy Store.
Answering phones or just doing whatever.
I don't know if he was parking cars. I guess you have to do everything there.
Door guy, everything.
And so the fact that, you or I were like, thank you, Tony, for letting me in, or thank you, Tony, for parking my car, or thank you so much for, letting me in here, or just being whatever. And then to creating something that, I don't know, was, just to see, and to also turn down, like you say, sometimes you turn things down, like he turned down, again, I believe this is true. I think he got offered, the show was offered, Comedy Central offered to buy it, and he turned it down, I believe, and about 7 or 8 years ago. And the greatest decision he ever made.
Yeah.
Now anybody could offer to buy the show, and who cares? You own it. But he's not only helping the young comics like, Hans Kim or people like that. And there's a whole... Casey Patterson, did I get that right? I hope if I didn't, I'll... whatever, there's a whole bunch... Cam Patterson, Charles Rocket, all these people. But he's also helping when people are on the panel. People like you...
It's the best podcast.
People like you, when you go on the panel, you can't tell me that when you go into the club, things don't change.
People come to my stand-up shows because they saw me on Kill Tony. It's one of the best podcasts to do.
Yeah, and sometimes, and it's a low-pressure podcast, because sometimes you see people and they don't really say or do anything. They'll have like one line every 10 minutes, but they'll, or you'll see somebody who isn't even, maybe, you look at Harlan Williams, who did the show at I believe he did the Forum. Harlan Williams, another guy, been doing it for 30 years.
Right. And
he can go on that show and it can give him a bump.
Right.
And so it's a really great thing. All right, Trevor Noah.
It's funny, man. It's funny when you meet people and then you see where they end up. Like, where did I see Trevor first? I don't know where. Maybe it was in New York, or maybe it was in England. I can't. And then it didn't even compute that he was then he was at the Comedy Store a few times for Chris Spencer's night, and he'd go on. And then I'd stop watching The Daily Show. So the next thing I hear, he's the host of The Daily Show. I'm like, what happened? There's so much going on in your life that you don't get a chance to keep up with people. But, good for him. And it's a tough job to do, but when I would watch the clips of him talking to the audience in between the shots, when you have to, he's almost like doing his own warm-up and giving the people information and telling them about his life or a story. I'm like, oh, this guy wants it. And I never, so he deserves to be there because he wants it. Like, at some point he showed them he wanted it. You know what I mean? So you got it.
Joe Rogan.
One of the smartest, kindest, intelligent, information-seeking, inquisitive, funny motherfuckers. That's real as shit. And then he went through a lot of attacks during the pandemic, and he weathered them out, because if he'd have done anything wrong, they would have found it, because they were looking for it, because it was a time to let's get the people we don't like, who have this audience that we don't have access to. And he's a bootstrap guy, you know what I mean? He did news radio. Why am I giving his resume? I just think he's a stand-up dude, funny stand-up dude.
Wanda Sykes.
I could see it. One night, We was at the Cellar, and she was on stage. And this has happened with Ralphie May, and other. And I could see it. Like, I was listening to her voice, and I was listening. And sometimes comics have sets like this. I was listening to her voice, how she sounds, and I was listening to the audience response. And I was like, this is funnier than the reaction she's getting tonight. And it's not like she didn't kill or stuff like that. It's just for some reason, that's all they were given that night to what she was doing. And it took that juxtaposition for me to say, oh, shit, this is going to blow at some point. Like, the 2 points are going to converge, and it's going to work.
Louis C.K.
Funny motherfucker. And like you said, like, the thing that you want me to do, he's done, you know? Yeah, he messed up a little bit, but still a G. As far as comedy, still a G.
Jon Stewart.
He's a G, you know, like on and off the court, he's a G. Like, even the things that he's, you know, he seems like to be on the right side of history and politically fighting and trying to do the right thing. So I respect him for that.
Dave Chappelle.
Another G. It's just funny to know these people, to know them before and now. You know, it's like, and part of it is to you. Like, you got to give Barry credit, you know, for, you know, coming from Boston, starting a club, and seeing shit before other people saw it. Got to give you credit for that. Like, and like we was talking before, I was asking you a question about like opportunities for Black people when I started, and now, like, now there's way more opportunities, but the people you chose then, you didn't choose them because of color. You chose them because you saw the talent. Like, you managed Tracy to, you know, and before that, Chappelle. So you did, like, if you saw the talent, you go for the talent. You know what I mean? You managed me. So I think Tony Woods, just, you know, like when I walked into New York Entertainment, I wasn't like the rare Black dude in there. You feel me? So got to give you props for that. You know what I mean? And Chappelle, like, you called it before everybody else. And Chappelle show was amazing. You even got the right door guys. Neil Brennan. You even know how to book, who to make a door guy.
Timothy Olyphant was
Frost.
Timothy Olyphant was my other doorman.
Oh yes,
at the other club.
It's hilarious.
Matt Frost, an agent at CAA.
Yeah,
now.
Yeah. You got a lot of things right. You know,
I got a lot of things wrong too.
You got some wrong, but you got some things right. But it's great to admit that. But, you know, you might get shit on, but listen, man, you got a lot of shit right.
Thanks, man. That means a lot coming from you. It's like, I don't even know how to respond, but it's like I'm always proud of the people and what they're doing, and you've known me a long time. I really truly am humbled, and I sometimes just speechless as to what the life that you can have in this world, that you know, even to the audience, it's like, I'm from Longmeadow, Massachusetts. Like, my dad died when I was 4. And just everything is possible, and so many people, and you talk to them as well, like comedians, and they're like, oh, this isn't happening for me, or I can't do this, or I can't make that. And I think to myself, like, well, then how the fuck did I do it? I'm not saying this to be self-deprecating.
Mm-hmm.
I am not intellectually smart. Mm-hmm. I am emotionally intelligent, smart, but I I'm just saying that everything is possible, and so if it's possible for me, it's possible for anybody, and I'm grateful. And what I love is my favorite thing that I'll say till I'm blue in the face is that the thing I look forward to the most in my life is the unknown. I love it. I loved walking into the Comedy Store and just seeing you there, and just hadn't seen you in so long, and it was like, I don't even, I'm embarrassed. I don't, when I go, I kind of go and I hide, and I like what because it's like, it's overwhelming to, to be around so many people that you know. And I tell you something that you won't believe. That room downstairs, Ciro's, that bar.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, this bar where all the, great comics hang out to hang out. I'm gonna tell you something you won't believe. I've been doing this a long time. The first time I went into that bar and sat down and had a drink was that night or one of those nights around that time. It was after the roast. And people would say if I said that, and they wouldn't believe that. Like, what are you talking about, Barry? You can go there anytime you want. And I don't go there because that's a place to me where I feel like it's sacred to the comedians. And I feel like it's a place where they deserve to have their place where they can hang together without somebody on the other side of the business. Even though I've been invited there a million times and whatever, I don't even know why I went. I guess it was after the roast, and I just felt with Jeff and we brought the roast to Comedy Central in the beginning. And to see that roast, it was the greatest roast I'd ever seen in my entire life by tenfold. I felt, you know what? I'm going to sit down at that bar. And I sat down at that bar, and sure enough, sits next to me Bruce Hills, who's the president of the Just for Laughs Festival. And he looks at me and he says, I found the tape. I'm like, what tape are you talking about? It's like, I found the Chappelle tape that you sent me.
That's hilarious.
And I called you at 1 o'clock in the morning and said, I've looked at 500 tapes and we got to book this guy. And you picked up. And the minute he finishes the story, Chappelle walks in and sits down. And then I feel like, okay, I'm an idiot. I should be sitting in this bar all the time, but I don't, because I just feel like it's not my. I want the comedians to have their thing. I don't want to be in it, but I'm going to keep going. Got 3 more questions, and then we're going to get out of here. They're real quick. Your proudest moment in show business?
There's been a bunch of them. Like even every time I get a job, every time I get offered a job, or doing a special with produced by Bill Burr, or just doing shows. There was one. Was it during the pandemic or before the pandemic? I was doing shows with Rogan and Chappelle, like in theaters, in arenas. It's just like. Being on tour with Tosh, we took 2 buses, just writing on shows, just having a job. Anytime I get booked to do a TV show, like all the times I did Conan. Conan did my comedy album. They produced that. I was the first comic on their record label. So yeah, it's just a lot of, every time you have the perfect set, Every time a joke works, a new joke works, that's,
I lie, and I gonna have an extra question for you.
All right.
There's such thing as a perfect set?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, I remember the first time I killed.
No, I'm not talking about killing. I'm talking about the perfect set.
Yeah, because the first time I killed was like a perfect set.
You auditioned for me 30 years ago at the Boston Comedy Club. You fucking annihilated.
Like that. Like, I just came to that show to do an audition. So here's the thing. So I knew I came to the club to audition, but when I said I'd like seen Chappelle on TV, I'd like seen him on A&E at the Improv and all those shows. And then I was doing comedy in Long Island. When I'm doing comedy in Long Island, I'm looking at all the hosts of the shows that are bringing me up to do the open mics. And those guys are regular comics that work every weekend, whether they're headlining or whatever. And they're known comics on Long Island. But every time I'm watching a stand-up show on TV, I don't see none of them on it, right? So I don't see none of them on it. And I was like, these guys are good, right? They're hosting. We're looking up to them because they're bringing us up on these open mics. They're hosting, and in between, they're funny. But I'm like, nobody in Long Island is on TV. And I'm like looking at Annie and whatever comedy shows that they have on. I'm like, oh, all the comics that are on TV are Manhattan comics. So I was like, I got to get into a club in Manhattan. So that audition that I did for that TV show that was in your club that night, like, I didn't book that TV show, but what I did was you saw me, I killed, and you wanted to manage me, and I got into the Boston Comedy Club. And then I never did another Long Island open mic ever again. And I just drove to the city every night.
That's fantastic.
And just did the Cellar, and then branched out to Caroline's, and sometimes what's the one, the comic strip. I just started doing all the Manhattan clubs, and that's when I started getting on booking like TV spots and shit like that.
All right, and your biggest disappointment in show business?
What if I say none?
You can't say that.
Yeah, I can.
You've never had a disappointment?
Yeah, a lot of them, but they all taught me shit. So it's like...
Well, that's what I'm saying. So which one was your biggest disappointment that taught you the most?
But it's weird, man. I don't be looking at things like...
You ever been fired from a show?
Nah, but I've quit some shows. Like...
And the reason why you quit a show is because...
I would have been disappointed, like my first writing job, it was tough because now you have to write every day and be funny. But I didn't get fired.
Was that Lyricist Lounge?
No, that wasn't Lyricist Lounge. That was like Keenan Ivory Wayans talk show. But
oh my God.
Some people got fired. Right?
You talk about a tough gig.
It's a tough gig it's like the hours. That was the first job I had. It was like boot camp. I'm grateful for it.
And but for those the way the union works now, the way that show ran would never, it could never happen. It would never be, because he never, it went from morning till late at night.
But I think every show did back then. Like every show had crazy hours. Like if you wrote on a sitcom, people were getting out at 4 a.m. I wrote on a sitcom. We get out at 2 a.m. I have to be back there at 10. It's just late hours. But I didn't. The reason why I don't have disappointments because I didn't get fired. I would have been disappointed, but I also would have realized that I need to be a better writer. So the way I approached any writing job was, they're gonna pay me to learn how to be a better writer. So that's how I'll be just like, what did this person say? That's funny. Why is it funny? What's the math they use behind that? Oh shit. Oh, okay, that's a route. What this person say? I never thought of that. Something like that. That's funny. That's a route. And they're paying me to like pick.
Getting paid to go to college.
To go to college. So, and then I've just tried to enjoy myself, and I just, like, comedy is fun if you let it be. Like, even if you're not where you want to be, you're still in a fun environment. And once I make sure you have fun, enjoy the rise, enjoy all of it. And the friends we had, like Patrice and Keith Robinson and the Rogans and hanging out with J.B. Smoove and Chappelle and the festivals. Yeah, you might not kill on a night that's very important or critical for your career, but how much did you laugh? You know what I mean? Like, why would I be disappointed when I've laughed more than most people in the world?
Got it.
You feel me? So it's like, yeah.
All right, last question.
Mm-hmm.
What advice do you have the young person who grew up in another country,
Mm-hmm.
had a whole different lifestyle, comes over to the United States with $1 and a dream, and gets to have the kind of career that you have?
I mean, if they're coming from like a country where they were struggling and they get here, they already understand that they've achieved something, and just make the most of it and have fun and just take everything. You know, just don't take everything too serious. There's some serious shit going on out there. There's enough serious shit out there. You don't have to make some shit that's not serious. Like, tap into your fun, like, side, and just and work hard and enjoy your shit and focus. Like, there's ways to make it and figure it out, you know? Like, focus on just looking forward and help people if you can, love people if you can, and have as much fun as you can.
Ian Edwards. Amazing.
All right, fam.
Do I get to shake your hand too, or is that illegal?
I was just fist bumping.
All right, okay.
I'm a germaphobe now. I'm what's his name?
Howie Mandel.
I'm Black Howie Mandel.